She says she doesn't want to rush things with him, and it starts out with a good joke where he says that they've been kissing for 20 minutes. That's like a week in guy minutes. And this is playful and fine. But then he really starts pressuring her about and I'm just so confused. Are we supposed to be thinking this is sweet and silly? Weirder still is that's what they decided to make the whole episode about. Welcome back to another episode of The Rank. I'm John, and today we're going to be ranking the next episode of The Mindy Project. Now, for those of you who are new to the show or have watched a whole bunch of these and are still like, I don't know what he does, well, this is what I do. I do the Poach Notables, which are just like a couple interesting facts or tidbits I found out about the episode or series. Then I do the episode overview, where I talk about everything that happened in the episode from beginning to end. And then I do the rank, the namesake of the show, where I rank the episode in 5 categories on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And this is all to figure out what is the best sitcom of all time. So we take a sitcom, in this case, The Mindy Project, we rank every single episode, and then we average the rankings, and that gives you the series ranking. Now today we're going to be ranking the 16th episode of the 2nd season, titled Mindy and BBW, written by Jeremy Bronson and directed by Michael Spiller. So if you're enjoying these episodes, or you're just a fan of The Mindy Project and you enjoy consuming content about it, please consider subscribing and or following, like the episode, comment down below. You can write me an email at info@therankpodcast.com with suggestions, questions, whatever. I will respond to you. If you super duper like it, consider becoming a patron on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankpodcast. Now, just so you know, for any of these shows that have been around for a while and you can stream them whenever you want to, I'm not going to worry about spoilers, so that's your spoiler warning. Spoilers ahead. But let's dive into this episode and figure out how it ranked, starting with the Poach Notables.
Poach Notables.
So the 16th episode of the 2nd season aired April 1st, 2014. Now, for those of you who listened to or watched last week's Mindy episode, you know that it was a double up day for the show. So the episode numbers will be the same as last week at a terrible 1.9 million viewers. But rather than giving the same info again, let's look at the competition for the 9:30 slot, since we did the 9 o'clock slot last week. Some of these are 1-hour shows like NCIS Los Angeles, so that one is still the best in the time slot with 15.3 million viewers. But ABC had Trophy Wife at 3 million, and NBC had Growing Up Fisher with 6 million. The only other direct 30-minute window competition that it lost to, that I know of anyway, was another episode of Storage Wars on A&E, which had 2.43 million viewers. So things don't appear to be looking up for Mindy right now. So our second and final Poach Notable for this week is much of the set decoration, particularly Mindy's apartment, was personally curated by Mindy Kaling. She bought many of the decorative items on sites like Etsy to reflect the character's style. And although the show is set in New York City, none of the interior or most of the street exteriors are actually shot in New York City. The production did exteriors on a back lot in LA made to look like New York. So there you go. Those are the Poach Notables. Let's go on to the episode overview. So we open the episode with Mindy and Danny doing some heavy making out. Now last week I was worried that they were going to preempt their relationship over the haunting of Cliff's grandma. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. However, my excitement for the relationship begins to whittle away as we see Danny become more and more unironically fervent about Mindy needing to give it up to him. She says she doesn't want to rush things with him, and it starts out with a good joke where he says that they've been kissing for 20 minutes. That's like a week in guy minutes. And this is playful and fine. But then he really starts pressuring her about sex, and I'm just so confused. Are we supposed to be thinking this is sweet and silly? Weirder still is that's what they decided to make the whole episode about. He ends up claiming that thousands of girls would love to bang him right now, so she challenges him to find someone, one of the thousands, which is super weird, but whatever. It's decently funny, especially when it ends up unsurprisingly backfiring. But then we find out that he's paid for it before, which I also found really weird. So the A story is that poor Danny can't get any from Mindy. And just in case you think I'm being weird about this, at one point he says they're not dating because they're not having sex, as if that's a prerequisite. Really makes you think that Danny was a put out or get out type of guy. Anyway, the B story is somewhat ironic considering the the A story. The B story, which Peter gets to be a part of, is that Mindy has a sex tape that has ended up on the InstaWeb. Peter gets to be a part of it because he's the one who found it. Now, he ends up getting her away from Danny to talk about this. Danny was in the hospital, by the way, because of meningitis after having exhibited no signs of illness in his attempt at coercive sex. Now, this part of the episode was a lot of fun. I mean, even just her interaction with Peter got me 3 times in like 10 seconds. I can't stress enough how great of an addition Adam Pally has been on this show. Not only does Peter join Mindy on her quest to get this tape removed from the internet and get the original and destroy it, he also ends up discovering that Mindy is dating Danny. So that's a bit later, but still it happens in an hilarious way. The journey to find this sex tape ends up with Tom, Bill Hader's character, who has been a great recurring character since the pilot. Well, apparently Tom gave it to his brother after his brother's divorce to cheer him up, and that's who put the tape on the internet. That's a weird thing to give your brother, and on top of that, the woman that Tom is seeing now, who is insanely dull by the way, thinks Tom is a virgin. I'm not really sure how that's possible with Tom being divorced and all, but whatever. The point is that Tom is also eager to see it come off the internet. Well, Mindy is able to get Tom to agree to leave the tape on her desk as she heads with Peter to the headquarters of Sploders.com. In my head, no porn company has a headquarters, nor is it as posh as Sploders is. But this episode did make me wonder if I'm wrong about that. Like, do they all have like really nice offices and stuff in New York City? It just seems unlikely, but we know, whatever. Sploders doesn't want to take the video down because it's great for the Indian BBW market that has a glut of content apparently. But Peter is able to convince them because they've all gone to Dartmouth. Alas though, as per romantic comedy rules, the sex tape ends up in the hands of Danny because Morgan brought work from Mindy for him. I'm not sure what work an OB needs to take home and work on, but even just saying that thought makes me think it would be bad if they did. Anyway, he watches the tape, which was fun. Just to go back a second, earlier Richie had come to visit Danny in the hospital, and Danny opened up about his vulnerability about Mindy not wanting to have sex with him. He knows that she doesn't feel the need to wait to have sex normally, so he's wondering if she doesn't like him. Honestly, that's an understandable vulnerability. I'm not sure why the show didn't go with that vulnerability rather than making him seem rapey. Either way though, the sex tape really seals the deal with how he's feeling. So is Mindy and Danny's relationship headed to an early end? Thanks to Peter, it's not. I liked Peter's point. If this is such a deal breaker for him, he's not the guy for you, Mindy. I think the saddest part of all this is that this episode really dampened my excitement about Mindy and Danny being together. I just really don't know what they were thinking with this one. I mean, the whole thing is that we're supposed to feel good about Danny realizing that he's not entitled to sex regardless of her past. The moral of the story is poor white guy figures out he can still get some eventually. I don't know. Now, I know I spent a lot of this overview sort of bashing it, but the rank still might surprise you because it was a really funny episode in spite of this stuff. But let's find out how it did. Let's go to the rank.
A rank.
So the rank is where I rank the episode based on 5 categories: story, acting, dialogue, episode coherence, and character relatability. I rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, and then I also have a laugh counter where I tally up the amount of times the episode made me laugh out loud. 1 point per laugh out loud gets added to the score. But before I dive into the rankings, I just want to mention if you're enjoying this episode, please leave a like down below. It really does help us out. But without further ado, let's dive in here. The first category is story, and I gave story a 2. I mean, it's the story of a guy who is upset that a woman won't have sex with him, and then the arc is that he magically overcomes it. It's not that great. So let's go to acting, which I gave a 4.5. The acting was really good, even though I didn't like the premise. Though I will say that Danny never really seemed sick to me, so it was odd that he was in the hospital, but you know, whatever, that's a quibble. So let's go to dialogue, which I give a 4.25. Look, there's just no denying that this episode was really funny. I would have preferred less pressuring to have sex from Danny, which is why it's not higher, but it was just so damn funny and clever that I couldn't deny it a high score. So let's go to episode coherence, which I gave a 2.5. Felt like it was out of character for Danny to be such a dick about sex. That's essentially enough for me to have it below a 4, but we also had the work delivery from Morgan to Danny of Mindy's stuff. This was just a flimsy way of getting the sex tape to Danny in the first place. The idea that Tom's girlfriend thinks he's a virgin after having been married and maybe going to the headquarters of a porn website was a little too silly, but I was fine with both. Anyway, let's go to character relatability, which I gave a 2.5. So here's here's the thing. I really do get why Danny was feeling insecure about Mindy not wanting to have sex with him right away. From everything he's seen, she doesn't really take things slow, so why with him? But what is really weird and kind of gross was the constant pressure he gave her throughout this episode. So for that reason, relatability is low. All right, so that all being said, it's sort of up and down. I didn't like the premise that much, but I did say that it made me laugh a lot, right? And it got me a lot of times. My laugh counter was a 21. So that puts the grand total up to 36.75 for this episode of The Mindy Project, which puts it in the Holy Grail. Now, I would think from everything I've said up to this point, you wouldn't expect this to end up in the Holy Grail, but that is what a good laugh counter will do for you. The whole point of a sitcom is to be funny, so if it makes me laugh, you know, gonna end up with a high score. Now, as for the series average, it goes to a 35.8, moving it just that little bit further into the Holy Grail. So thanks for listening and or watching. If you'd like to see a list of our episode and series rankings, you can do that on our website at therankpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe, review, and comment, and please consider supporting us on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankpodcast, where you'll get access to all of our archived episodes. Also, if you enjoyed the episode, please leave a like. It really does help us out, but I will leave you with this. Why did Danny become a gynecologist? Because in the delivery room, pushy isn't just his personality, it's medical advice. You push a baby out. Yeah.
It isn't funny if you explain the joke.
And now Antonio's going to leave that part in and be like, look, he's dumb. He's explaining his joke again.
How? How did he know?
All right. I do the potent notables, which are just which are just a couple.
That was weird.